You're listening to the Heart Lessons podcast with me, Sarah Rieke. Real women, real stories, real faith. Hi friends, thank you so much for joining me for episode 26 of the Heart Lessons podcast. Today my special guest is Sarah Bragg of the Surviving Sarah podcast, which I know I've mentioned a time or two before. And so I'm so excited to introduce you to her. And I'm really excited for you to hear what she has to say. Sarah has a story about her struggle with body image that started when she was 9 years old and lasted for about 10 years. And so my original intention with this episode was that I was thinking it would be a great resource for young women who found this to be a struggle in their life, and for parents who were trying to help their girls, their daughters through it. But what I didn't anticipate was that I found it so applicable for myself. And there's so much truth to what Sarah says, so much encouragement for how to just live comfortably with yourself as a Christian woman. Even if you don't think you struggle with this body image issue, which I felt like I didn't, I think you're still going to be able to find something great when you listen to what she has to say. So here's my conversation with Sarah. Well, thanks for all of you who are tuning in today to the Heart Lessons podcast. As you know, on this podcast, I like to find women who are walking well in what the Lord has for them. And today, my guest is Sarah Bragg. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Hello there.
And Sarah has been so helpful. She has a podcast of her own called the Surviving Sarah podcast, which I know I recommend all the time. So you have to listen to it if you haven't listened to it already.
You're so sweet.
Well, besides the podcast, though, Sarah, you do a lot of great things. Will you give me a brief bio of a little snapshot of your life?
Yes, of all the things.
Yes.
Let's see, for the last 10 years, I have worked for an organization called Orange, and it's a nonprofit, and we create resources, and we have events for church leaders and for families, for parents. And so I have been involved in their student curriculum. So they have a preschool, an elementary, a middle school, and a high school curriculum. And so I have been a writer and an editor for that curriculum for about 10 years. And so I do that, and then I do a lot of just writing on the side. I have a book that's called Body, Beauty, Boys, The Truth About Girls and How We See Ourselves, which I wrote forever ago, back before I had kids and I had a whole lot more mental space to put words together to form sentences. And then I have a podcast, and it's called, you just said it was Surviving Sarah. So I get to have conversations much like you with different women. And I was just telling someone today how much fun it is to have a podcast, because I'm like, I know I'm not getting paid. This is not like a paid job, but it's fun that I get to, for a job, have conversations with women and just get to hear their stories and get to highlight who they are for others to see and others to find.
It's like you're making yourself have a coffee date with someone every week. It's really fun.
Yes.
It's really
fun.
And
I love that. And it's people that you don't know, and they always have these stories, and I feel like I'm getting counseling for free. I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah.
I keep finding so many things that I'm like, I really needed to hear that. That's really helpful, and that's really encouraging. And so I don't need a counselor, I guess. I've got it.
You're counseling yourself via your own podcast.
Exactly. That's the whole reason why I started it. No, I'm just kidding.
That's funny. So I know, because I follow your Instagram pictures, not like a stalker way, but
right.
like how we all do. And your girls,
what do they call it? Insta-lurk? Is that like the name for it?
That sounds much better than stalker. So your girls just went back to school,
Yes. That was a glorious moment. So I have two girls, and my oldest, Sinclair, is 8. I keep wanting to say she's 9. I think I've been dreaming of her being 9 and 10 since she was 1. So I'm I'm on the cusp. So I keep finding myself just pushing it over the edge. But she's 8. She's a 3rd grader. And Rory is just turned 6, and she's in 1st grade. Okay. So going back to school, we love that. We love that moment. We usually celebrate it big time. Thankfully, my girls love school, so that's not a depressing thought for them. But, I just thrive on structure, and I have lots of things to do, lots of writing and editing and podcasts to record. And so it's hard to do that from 5 a.m. till 8 a.m. and then 8 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah, because all that stuff needs like a lot of focused attention, which kids aren't very good at giving. I'm going to turn the tables on you. For all of your guests, you ask what's in their survival kit. So I want to know what was in your survival kit this summer while your girls were home. What helped you survive your summer?
Okay, so LaCroix. I don't know if you drink LaCroix. I love LaCroix. So I drink a lot of water and you just get tired of water. And so we don't drink any soda. And so this is, like sparkling. I guess you call it sparkling or bubbling or whatever. It's basically soda water, but it tastes better. Soda water sounds so lame. But LaCroix, so we drink a lot of LaCroix, and it's a great mixer kind of drink. So we love that. And then my favorite little lip gloss is, and I wear it all the time, is Burt Bees. Okay. I think it's called Lip Shimmer, and it's I wear Fig, but that is my favorite go-to, like, if I'm just running anywhere, and even if my makeup, because I usually apply my makeup in the morning, and then who knows what happens to it by the end of the day.
I know, because it's 100 degrees. It's terrible.
Yes, but I'm not going to retouch up, so I'll just keep my little lips looking good, and I'll put on my lip shimmer, and I look a little bit brighter. So those two things, and then probably another survival for summer is having a good swimsuit, because we are finally at the age, and I know there's a lot of moms who are still in like little kid age, and you're not really going to the pool because that is like some form of Chinese torture if you have little kids.
Yeah.
But my girls both swim like without any help, and they can, so like it's literally I'm at the cusp of being able to sit in a chair and read a book, and they swim.
That's so nice.
It's like a miracle. Never thought it would happen. So a good swimsuit. So my favorite swimsuits, I've been wearing them for about 3 years now, is from a company, and they're a small business out of Utah called Fit.
Okay.
And I love them. They're modest. They fit well. They're made by women, designed by women, and they just know how a woman's body wants to fit. So like, the swimsuits never like squeeze in and then you have like skin hanging off, like the muffin, it forms a muffin top. Like their swimsuits don't do that.
So you mentioned your book, Body Beauty Boys, The Truth About Girls and How We See Ourselves. And that book came out of your own journey of struggling with body image. And so I would just love to hear your journey with that. I would really love for this podcast to be a resource to young women who find this to be an issue in their lives, and also maybe for, moms and dads who are trying to figure out how to help their daughters, navigate these waters. So I know often this body image issue can start with like a single comment from a friend, a loved one, like a boy that you have a crush on. So did it kind of start that way for you? Was there a trigger that started this? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it really kind of started, I guess I was like 9.
Oh, that's
maybe
early.
Close to between 9 and 10.
Yeah.
And for me, being a mom of an 8-year-old, it makes me really nervous because I can think, gosh, I have very vivid memories of a defining moment in my life at the age of 9. And so I think about Sinclair and I think, gosh, what is going to happen to her? Because, trouble will come. Like, she will face different things. And that was this was a real defining moment in the story that God has ultimately used and redeemed and uses greatly. But I think, she's approaching the age where she's going to really remember defining moments. So it kind of makes me nervous because, you don't have control. I like to have control, and I don't have control over that. But for me, it began, we had moved. I was in 4th grade. We had moved to a new city, not far from my old one, but we had moved. And so you think about, in hindsight, I can look back and think, man, like 4th grade, there is so much that's going on for like a 4th grade girl. Like, your body is already kind of changing. Like, sometimes girls at that age are a little bit chubbier at that time anyways, because your body is shifting and things are happening. And then we'd moved to a new town. And so I didn't have really any friends, and that was a whole new thing. And I think I'd changed schools twice or 3 times that year. So that was a lot. And so I was invited to this pool party by a friend from church. And I thought, okay, this is it. I can meet some girls. This will be great. And I can still remember walking into that house and they had an indoor pool, and I remember being in this pool and kind of off by myself because, girls are kind of mean, and, you're the new kid, and so you're not naturally always welcomed in. And for whatever reason, I was playing with this float, and it was one of those floats. My girls swam with them this summer that have like an animal head or something like that on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of goes around your waist.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what I was doing. I was just playing with it, but for whatever reason, it popped. And this one girl who was kind of the ringleader and kind of like, the main mean girl, if you want to look at it that way, I remember she looked at me and she said, "Sarah's so fat, she popped the float."
Mm.
And it was like the first time that I had ever realized that I had an imperfect body. Not that I thought I was perfect, but it just wasn't something I thought about.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't think about that. Like I didn't think about my physical appearance because most kids don't. Most kids up until a certain age aren't thinking about the way that they look and what people are thinking about them. But for me, that really did just kind of set the course for me because I thought, I'm not good enough to be their friend because of my appearance, because of I am fat and I am all these things. And so just really that shame of that moment really defined my worth. And so I had great parents, that they were Christians and they loved me, and they always, it wasn't like I was lacking any love at home or any encouragement from home. But that comment just really set me on a path for the next 10 years of really struggling with quite an obsession with my appearance.
It's so bizarre how just like such an offhand comment from one person. And I mean, that girl probably didn't think about what she said again.
Right.
And for you, it, like you said, a 10-year journey. Like I just, like the power of words is just astounding.
I know. I think
It's
about
crazy.
that too. I mean, there's that saying, sticks and stones
Yeah.
will not break my bones, but words will never, or they may break my bones, but words will never harm me. And I'm like, they do. They completely.
do.
Words carry so much of a weight. And so then I think, gosh, what words am I saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what words do like my girls hear? Like, it might not be anything about their appearance, like as I really try to be guarded about what I say. But what about, the negative things that they're hearing that I may say about their personality or about, the way they're acting or all these things. And there was a study, and I can't remember the study. I read it in some research we were doing for something, and it talked about for every one positive word that someone hears, they will hear 6 negative ones.
Oh, wow.
And that's a lot of weight that we
Yeah.
put on negative words. So you think, gosh, well, if I'm saying they're great in this, they're probably hearing 6 other negative things. So the power of negative is probably really going to outweigh our positive words unless we really amp up our positive words.
So you said you had great parents. Were they like privy to this struggle that you were having, or did you hide it? Did they see it in any way? Like, were they trying to help you, or did they not really know what you were going through?
Yeah, my mom knew what I was going through, mostly because I would ask her if I looked fat probably 87 times a day,
Aw.
And so she knew that there was a struggle. She helped. And the reality was I was an overweight girl at that season. I can still remember, and I don't know if they still do this, but I can remember being in 5th grade and having to get on the scale in PE for physical fitness, whatever, and being horrified that people could see the number like on the scale. And so I know that I was overweight at that time, but again, in hindsight, I got to 7th grade and I lost 30 pounds. Now, part of that was because I was, restrictive of what I was eating, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that I hit puberty, you know?
Yeah.
And so, of course, my body was like, it was just going through so many changes. So my mom knew. She helped me try to eat healthy because, because I know she had to struggle knowing that I was a little bit pudgy. I know that's like, I talk to other moms who have daughters in that same place, and they're like, it's just so hard. You want to encourage them to be healthy, but not make it sound like you need to lose weight.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So she did help me with that, and she's like, I just felt like I didn't know what to do because I wanted you to be happy and I wanted you to be accepted, and I wanted you to be healthy. And so I helped you. She's like, and sometimes I feel guilty that I helped you because I wonder, did that spur you on? And I always come back as like, she would always reinforce the truth of what God thinks of me and why I have acceptance and why I have value apart from anything external. But it just, unfortunately, it took me learning on my own. I couldn't just hear her say that and go, oh, yeah. Okay, that works. I'll believe that. But for me, it took really just the Lord working in me through all these different ways to get me to the point in a place of hearing that truth and accepting that truth as reality.
It's just got to be so hard as a mom to watch your daughter, and to know, like, God is working something in her life, and yet to, it's just got to bother you. It's got to break your heart. Like, even though you know that, it's just, I hope I can handle that well when that comes.
I know. I feel like it's one of those things where it's gotta be it happens because you're just gonna have to lean on the Lord. That will draw like the thorn in the flesh or the weakness so that his strength, his power will be made strong in me. Like, because there is absolutely nothing you can do as a parent other than reminding them of truth.
Right.
Reminding them of truth. And so then it's just like one of those, like, I always think about, especially with that age, once kids get to a certain age as tweens and teenagers, you lose, with every year they get older, you lose a little bit of control. Mm-hmm. And so I remember the first time when I tried to potty train Sinclair, I was like, oh, this is a taste of raising teenagers. I cannot make her use the potty. Like, there's nothing in me that can force her to do this. Like, she has to decide on her own that she's going to do it. And I thought that's what it's going to be like. And in the same way, like, I had to decide on my own if I was going to believe this truth. And my mom could reinforce the truth to me all day long, but it was going to take me believing on my own. And that's hard, I think, for a mom to watch, because you're just waiting. You're having to just take it to the Lord and, and let go of that control. That is so hard. I hope that our daughters do not go through that. But I always think, God is writing a story on our kids' lives the same way he's writing a story on mine. And yes, that was painful and frustrating and, all those things about what I walked through. But I think about is 2 Corinthians 1:3 that talks about how the God of all comfort comforted me so that I could comfort others. And so he allowed me to walk through all of that rather than shielding me from it. He allowed me so that he could comfort me, so that I could experience what it felt like for the God of the universe to comfort me, the God of all comfort to comfort me. Yeah. And now I'm comforting others. Like, I'm able to minister to others from a much more real place and have empathy towards them that I would not have had if I'd never walked through it. So I know that for me, but sometimes it's hard to go, oh my goodness, like, my girls, what story is he writing on their life? What are they going to walk through so that he can comfort them? Yeah. So that they can comfort others.
Yeah. I feel the same way about things I've walked through, and just, like you said, you are able then to speak from a more real place and a place of maybe truer faith even, and people can take your word. People seem to take your word more seriously if they can say, like, oh, look what she did, look what she walked through, and still believe these truths. And so, yeah, certainly that's a great testimony. Then if our lives were just, flowers and rainbows and unicorns.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So what were these truths that you were, your mom was speaking to you that you were, trying to believe but struggling? What were those truths that you were trying to hide in your heart?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, it's all about your worth and your identity. And so I was really defining my worth and basing my worth and my identity on what other people said to be true about me. So, which is just opinions, which is not truth. And so I think about when it comes down to worth, like, to be valued, you want to feel valued. I wanted to feel accepted. I wanted to feel loved. And like Genesis 1:27, how it talks about in the beginning, God created man, and he created them in his image. And I love this because when we are created in his image, we are created with value, because God is highly valuable. I mean, it's his image. No other creature got his image. The cows didn't, the birds didn't, nothing got his image except for us. And so we have value simply because we were made in his image. So I am worth something because I am created by God and reflecting his image. And then I think about the identity as a believer, that when you become a Christian, Colossians 3:12 talks about that you are accepted and you are holy and you are beloved. So you can walk into a room and not need to be accepted by anyone. You have full acceptance of all of who you are. You are holy. So no matter what you have done, that your behavior, anything, you are holy and you are loved by God. You're beloved. And then I think my mom would talk about Psalm 139, how he created us, that he created you exactly the way that you're supposed to be. Like, it's easy for me, even outside of looks, and I could go, my personality, I'm so loud, or I'm so fill in the blank, And I remember when I was a kid, people would tell me I was so loud. Oh. And I laugh. And I say that to my daughter. I catch myself saying that to my daughter. But I think, for goodness sake, I speak for a living.
Right.
So no wonder I can be loud because I can carry my voice, or no wonder I like to talk because I do that now for a living. And he made no mistake on me when he made me that way. But it's easy when someone doesn't like something about you to go, then that's it. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm not worth anything. I'm not valuable. And I'll probably never be loved, And so for me, I listened greater to the influences that were around me as far as my friends go. I would look at magazine covers and think, if only, if only I looked like her, if only this, then, they would ask me out. Then I would be accepted. And just kind of didn't want to hear. To me, it felt like, my parents think all these things. Even if they're quoting scripture, they think all these things because they have to. Like, they're paid to think this because they're my parents,
Yeah.
And so I just really didn't hear those truths of, and that's a hard thing to wrap your mind around, that a God that you can't see and a God that, you can't hear from. And so I'm supposed to believe these truths. I'm supposed to believe that I have value because of that. It's hard to believe that, especially as, a tween or a teenager. It's just hard. And I think sometimes it just takes time, and it takes maturing, and it takes walking through some different life experiences to really get you to the point where it clicks in your spirit.
Yeah. I had a friend who was struggling with the way she looked, and she's, her parents would always, Psalm 139, I think, was a pretty key passage for her. And she said, she got to the point where she said, God, you say I'm beautiful, I'm just going to believe it. Like, she just had to, that's all. That's all she had. Yeah. She's like, I don't feel like I see any evidence. I'm just going to do it. But that is such faith, believing in what you can't see and what you can't feel necessarily.
Right.
And so, yeah, you might have to get a little further in your teen years before you can even have that, cognition.
It's that kind of fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
I'm just going to fake this until I make it. And, I think it's hard because even still, I don't struggle like I struggled then. But I still, want to be beautiful. I still want, it can easily compare to other people and feel less than. And I can easily find my worth in my identity and what I'm doing or what people are saying about me. And so it still is a struggle. I think that's a struggle for women in general. But I have to remind myself that there's more about me than just my appearance. And I think that's one of the things I love about Psalm 139 is that it talks about more than just your outward. It talks about your personality and all these things and the way that God creatively made you for a purpose. And because I think, my husband, when I think about him, there's things about him that I love that are apart from his physical appearance.
Right.
And so why would I think that he wouldn't love me more than my physical appearance? But for some reason, it's easy to just start believing, well, it's all about the way that I look. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I have going for me. It's the only thing that's keeping my friendships or keeping my relationships. And so it helps me when I turn the tables and go, well, what do I love about this person? Is it just their appearance, or do I love all these other things? And it helps me for some reason, because it's like, I'm just like crazy. It's like, we can just be crazy,
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it helps me to see from another perspective and go, there's more. My worth is based on more. It is not just based on how good my hair looks or whether I'm 3 to 5 pounds less than,
Yeah. This is such, like, just a common struggle for women. Like, why do you think the enemy specifically attacks women in this way? Like, what do you think it is about us that makes it easy for him to attack us in that way?
Right. I just feel like from the beginning, we have always been able to be deceived easily. Like, I think about Eve, and I think, in Genesis, God told her, you are free to eat from any tree except this one. And Satan came in and he twisted God's words, and he basically said, so he's wanting to keep something from you. But what God was saying was, no, you are free. Like, I gave you freedom. You can have anything you want except this one thing. And so for some reason, I think it comes back down to the way that we are wired and created, that we just are able to be deceived very easily. And because Satan knows all the tricks, He is like the master, advertiser, like, infomercials, lose 20 pounds in 4 minutes. He's the master deceiver. And I think it comes down to that. For whatever reason, I feel like we are wired to want to be loved, because we want to be loved by God. We want to be valued. I think we're wired that way. And then from the very beginning, Satan knew that if he just twisted God's words a little bit, that we could be easily led astray.
Yeah. I think I've read in a book, I think, this is where I've heard this, but that Satan, he doesn't have to convince you that God is wrong, just that he might not be right.
Yeah.
It's
that
like,
he may not want the best for you.
Yeah, just like a little off,
Yeah.
Just slightly off. Not that you're going to all of a sudden go 180.
And I feel like in that moment when you hear that, whatever it is in your gut that like makes you kind of go, I don't, the wheels start turning in your head. It's like stopping it in the moment and reminding yourself of what is true. Because the more that I let my mind go down that route, the deeper and deeper into the deception that I go. But in the moment, if I can just, I do this where I'm like putting on clothes, and you're like looking in a mirror, and you're like turning, you're looking from every angle, and I'm like, okay, you are enough, not based on how you look in this mirror, but because of what God says to be true about you. And I go through all those things. You're chosen, you're holy, you're loved, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You have value, intrinsic value, apart from anything that can be said about you or that you can do. It's because God created you. And I like run down that checklist, and I'm like, I'm just going to say it. It's that saying it until you believe it, because the more you say it, eventually you're going to believe it.
Right.
If you tell yourself long enough, eventually, because it works the other way. The more I tell myself that you are not worthy or that you are not loved, the more I'm going to believe it. And so it's just turning those tables and going, okay, from the moment that I hear that gut-wrenching thing in myself, I'm going to replace that with truth.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, replacing darkness with light is like the best recipe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So you said it was almost like a 10-year journey for you of like a body image struggle. So what was the turning point for you? At what point did you feel like, I want to change this?
I can remember, I think I was about 20 years old, and I was sitting on my college bed in my little like apartment that I had. And I just remember being so tired, so worn out, because when you're so obsessed with something, I mean, it determines everything for you. So it determined when I woke up, what I ate. Like, I was thinking about what I was going to eat for dinner at 6 a.m., like having to think about all the things. And I played tennis through college, and I would go to, our tennis, practice, and then I would go run. And like, you're going, oh my goodness, I'm just exhausted. I'm exhausted of thinking about this and working on this all the time. And I remember sitting on my bed, and I just like basically like put my hands up and said, that's it. Like, I'm done. I cannot do this anymore. And it was like the Lord just spoke to me and was like, finally, like, good. That's where I wanted you to be.
Yeah.
I just needed you to say, I can't do this anymore.
You needed the white flag to wave the white flag.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And for him, and again, it's one of those things, like, I don't totally know how. It wasn't like this miraculous moment and I was set free and I never thought about it again. But it was the submission in that moment and going, I can't. And realizing, okay, I need to start, like, if my thoughts are always obsessed about this, I need to start replacing it with truth. And that was, for me, really was the first step, was turning to Scripture and finding those truths and replacing it with truth. I met with a mentor, and she would speak truth into me. I remember, because, again, it wasn't an overnight click for me. And I remember meeting with her. This was probably even a year later. And she, I was still, like, kind of just struggling. I'd have those days and those moments of struggle. And she looked at me and she said, for the sake of your future children, you need to stop. And I had never thought about my future children in light of that before. Like, because when you struggle with body image, it's such a selfish struggle. Yeah. Because you think about yourself all the time. Like, there is no room to think of anyone else. There is no room to give light to anyone else. And so, and something about making that statement of thinking, I do not want to be 40 and still struggling with this. Right. And I certainly don't want to be a mother and be struggling like this so that my daughters start doing the same thing. And so something about really seeing outside of myself was kind of the final nail in the coffin for me. Like, it really did go, okay, like, this I'm done. I'm going to call this sin what it is, this selfishness and this pride, and I'm going to repent and I'm going to move forward. And so for me, it was that process of submission, finding truth, finding someone who was older and wiser to speak into me, and allowing someone, it's painful for someone to just, put you in your place. Right. But finding someone who has the right to speak into you, to speak wisdom, and to veto things in your life, to go, you know what, the path that you're on is not right. And to give them the ability to say that to you is a good thing to have in your life. And so it truly was that from that point on, I remember, again, like, I'll have moments of, like, obsession of thinking all about it, but it is nothing like what it was. It is nothing like, I'm going to not eat, I'm going to throw up, I'm going to over-exercise, I'm going to, it's really has been this process of, let's find what it means. Let's find moderation. Yeah. All things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial. So at this time in my life, probably having dessert every day is not a beneficial thing, but it's permissible. I can do it, but it's probably not the best thing from my life right now. And something about learning moderation really, it just really changed my thinking, because then it was less about, I'm never going to eat fries again in my life. Yeah. You can have fries. Like, why don't you have them, like, once a week, or why don't you have them, whatever. And so to me, finding that moderation was a huge game change for me. It's just a slight shift in how you think about things, So that was a game changer. And then I also, in that time period, learned, if the Bible says that we are to do all things for the glory of the Lord, or work as if we're working to the Lord, what does exercise look like in regards to that? Like, how can I treat food and exercise as worship? And so I really just started replacing all my exercise with, like, okay, when I run or when I walk, I'm going to pray, or I'm going to, listen to something that, like, music, worship music, or something to try to turn my thoughts away from myself and how many calories I'm burning and what I'm looking like and all that, and just really trying to shift again my perspective of how can I worship God with the way that I eat and with my body.
Yeah, that's so good. I was actually just going to ask, what were your, like, very practically speaking, how did you make that shift from being obsessed with exercise and obsessed with, calorie counting.
Yes. Yeah, that was really the first, really just kind of shifting and going, taking it away from calorie counting and going, I can have this, but is it beneficial? It's probably not good to have dessert every day of your life. I mean, as a mom, I don't let my kids have dessert every day, so just trying to find that moderation. So it's not that you can't ever have it, but let's try to find that moderate balance. And then I can remember, because this was back in the day when, I don't even know if you remember Tybo with Billy Blanks.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever do that?
I do. Yeah, we did it in my PE class in high school, I think.
Oh, my goodness. I'm like, Billy Blanks has seen me at my lowest.
Like, you do double time, right? He was like the punch, double time. Yeah.
And I can remember doing Tybo, in my living room for exercise. And I was kind of, because at this point, I basically memorized that routine. You do something enough and you memorize it. And I can remember, praying in my mind as I was working out. I was praying out loud about things, and I got so lost in what I was praying that I felt like I was just jumping around and but I was praying and I was having fun. I thought that's what exercise should be.
Yeah.
Just doing little things to shift your perspective so that when I'm walking or when I'm exercising, I'm shifting my thoughts off of, I've got to I'm dying and I've got to go 15 more minutes because I need to burn 800 more calories or whatever,
Yeah.
And so it was just a little things like that to just shift my thoughts and shift my perspective. And then again, I would put scripture up on my mirror. So when I'm getting ready, because, if I dry my hair, it takes 15 minutes, and I would put scripture on the mirror to memorize. And sometimes it was about body image stuff, or sometimes it was just, whatever scripture that I really wanted to memorize. But again, it's just shifting your eyes away from yourself and putting your eyes on either on Jesus or on others. And that's really what I feel practical ways of what helped me.
What would you say this struggle looks like for you today? And maybe it's not a struggle anymore, but certainly since it's something you've experienced, I can imagine it comes back.
Yes, it totally does. I mean, it came back when, you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And, your body is changing in ways it's never done. But then it's and I remember thinking, oh, surely I won't care when I'm pregnant because you're pregnant. You're supposed to gain weight. But I can remember sweating, getting on the scale and thinking, oh, my goodness, how many pounds have I gained this week? Because there's still celebrities who gain an ounce when they were pregnant, or things like that. And you're okay, there's still all these people to compare to.
Right.
And so I would go through those kind of seasons, or my baby weight didn't come off as fast, or I would struggle because I would lose weight and then people noticed and then people stopped noticing. And you think, well, no one's noticing and commenting that I look really good, so I wonder if I've gained weight. It's just crazy thoughts.
Yeah.
My husband is always telling me, he's I don't understand you. It's absolutely crazy. And I'm I know. But so I feel for me today, it still happens, and it usually happens because I'm comparing.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at someone else and thinking, wow, well, they look really good, and they have this, and I'm not enough. It's this downward spiral for me. And so if I can stop in my tracks and I can look at comparison and I can, comparing myself as a sin, I'm putting myself down, I'm elevating others, it's pride. And if I can call it for what it is and then replace it with truth, even if I don't feel it, because oftentimes our feelings, they're not true and they don't really do anything for us. It's our mind that can make this shift. And so eventually my feelings will follow. If I keep telling myself out loud the truth, eventually my feelings will follow. So for me today, it's still a struggle of, but it always starts with comparison for me. Just looking at others and thinking, oh, I wish that I looked like that. Or, and I'm never going to get longer legs. That's not,
right.
That's just not going to happen. And so learning to just be content with, okay, I'm 5'2", I have a shorter, stocky body. This is the way that it is. Okay. Let's accept it. And this is who God made you to be. Let's not insult him for creating me this way. And then just from there, reminding myself of truth and That's why I wear this giving key. I've had put on it enough, because I really feel like a lot of my struggles with contentment with who I am start with comparing, and it's comparing to others and going, well, now you're not enough. But no, God says you are enough. Like, you are enough because I made you enough, and you have enough to do what I have placed you to do because of him. And so I wear that often as just a reminder that I am enough, apart from anything else. That is the truth.
I think struggling with comparison, that can just lead you down such a downward spiral. And there's like a quote, comparison steals contentment, or comparison steals joy. That's just,
yes.
I mean, it's so true. Who hasn't experienced that? Hello, Pinterest, right? And that's,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You're going to always have someone to compare yourself to.
Yeah.
Like, I could compare myself to anybody, and you're either going to come out feeling great or you're going to come out feeling less than. And either way is not good. Either way is pride.
Yeah.
And so there is no win in comparison. Like, no one wins in that scenario. And so I think for me, that's the biggest thing for me today is just that struggle of comparison. But the wonderful thing is that I don't turn to starving myself, and I don't turn to bulimia, and I don't turn to the obsession. I feel like being 38 years old and walking this road, I now go, okay, what is the wise thing to do? And what is the moderate choice? And what is the truth? And I feel like I can now have those kind of processes in place in my life, so that when the struggle starts to rise, I can kind of just stop and kick myself as many times as I need to, like, tell myself the truth, or as many days as it seems to go on, but I know those processes in place. I can speak to someone who is wiser than me, and I can speak truth over my life, and I can make a moderate choice today. And all of those things have helped me to not spiral downward like I did when I was in my teen years.
Yeah, now they're in your toolbox. You have these.
Exactly.
Yeah, these truths to pull out when you need them. So how has this struggle for you changed the way you speak to your girls, and the way you, just speak to them, try to lift them up? How does it change, your experience change the way you, like, how you aspire to parent them?
Yeah, I'm very guarded about what I say about myself in particular. I don't want them to hear me saying, do I look fat?
Right.
Do you think I'm pretty? And so I really am guarded about making sure that they don't ever hear those words, because I will still say those. I will still, my husband would say I'm lying if I didn't say that. I still can ask him, like, do you still find me attractive? Am I still looking good to you? Like, and it drives him crazy. But, like, you just get, like, I just need, when you're, like, you've been married for however many years, you have these kids, I'm not getting hit on.
Right.
Like, no one's asking me out. No one, because that used to be, like, the barometer. Like, okay, I'm doing pretty good because I'm getting asked out, or I'm getting hit on, or whatever. That just doesn't happen anymore, Yeah. So I'm needing somebody, like, my husband's not he's not like a romantic type. He might be thinking she looks good, but he's not telling me that, because it's just not his, that's not his love language.
Right.
And so I'm very guarded about what I say, about myself in front of them. And then I just want to highlight things about them. Like, Christy Nockels was on my show recently, and she says that I'm still just wrestling with this, but she talked about how she had heard that girls get their identity from their fathers and their worth from their mothers. And so I've just been really thinking about that a lot, and thinking, okay, what kind of words can I speak over them that build up their worth?
Yeah.
And so I really try, in light of, my history, and in light of that, like, I speak, you are so creative. Like, look at your hair. I love that, what you did. Look at that outfit you picked out. I love how kind you are. Like, things like that, where you're highlighting things about their personality. You're highlighting things really about even their appearance, without saying you're so skinny, or you're so fit, or you're so, because my girls, Sinclair, she has like a 6-pack of abs. She's got like cut muscles. I don't know. I'm
Right.
like, she's just this little like fit, like, and so like everybody comments, like people notice it, and people are like, gosh, like she has like legitimate like muscles. And I'm like, I know, I don't know I think because she doesn't sleep well, so she's restless all night, so she's like back there working out, I guess, in her sleep.
That's funny.
So she comes out in the morning with like cut muscles, but they're really trying to be guarded about specific words towards their body, but really trying to just highlight all these great things about who they are in unique ways, like trying to notice things about them that are uniquely them, the way that God created them. And so trying to speak and notice those out loud to them so that they see, hey, I see this about you, that you are so talented with, dancing or whatever it may be, so that they're hearing a lot of other worth-building statements that are not tied to their physical appearance.
Yeah. I try to do similar things. It's kind of tricky because especially when you think they're so adorable, but you don't want to only ever say like, oh, you're just so cute. Look, your hair's so curly, your eyes are so blue,
Right.
Those are, great things. And of course I do gush over those to her.
Well, and it's good to say those things too, because I mean, I know I sound probably like, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but girls are wired to want to be beautiful.
Right.
They are wired to want to feel beautiful. And so if we never said any of those things, then they're going to look for someone else to say it.
Right.
And so I think it's worth saying, about their appearance or anything like that, but you don't have to say, you don't have to that be your only thing, you know?
Yeah.
But it's they're going to look, you don't have to, like, if a stranger comes up to them and says, like, they're so pretty, you don't have to, like, reprimand that stranger,
Right,
like,
right.
It just, teach them to accept a compliment. And because for heaven's sake, women cannot accept compliments well at all. You say you're so pretty or you're so talented. You're like, oh no, it's just that, we always have an excuse of why we actually aren't pretty or actually aren't talented. And so on that hand, it's teaching your kids how to accept that compliment.
Yeah, that's training them that it's okay to receive them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like having a son kind of helps, like, because, we are always like, oh, you're so, like, you're strong and you're, those kind of words. And I'm like, I can use those for my daughter, too. Like, she doesn't.
Exactly.
I don't only have to, tell her that she's sweet and kind and gentle. I can say, like, wow, look at your strong muscles, or,
Exactly. My girls love to flex their muscles.
Yeah.
Look how strong. Look, feel my arm. Feel how strong I am.
Yeah. I just, like, that's okay. It's okay. All those things are good.
I know.
So,
trying to teach them to not, because my girls love to, oftentimes they'll look at me and they'll like, oh, you look like you're going to have a baby. And I'm like, I'm not. And you should never say that to a woman.
Right.
Oh, goodness, trying to teach them, like...
Tact. You're like,
yes.
Here's the word, tact.
Yes, and without trying to make draw a big deal, like, well, why do, because women don't want, I don't want to say because women don't want to be fat, but that's the truth, but it's like trying to not
use those words. That's so funny. I have that challenge with my son is super into like asking about what kind of vitamins are in different foods that we're eating, which, it's just funny. Like kind of fun. Like, is milk good for you? Like, what's in milk that's good for you? And then talking about, well, why shouldn't we eat potato chips all the time? I'm like, well, I don't want to say they'll make you gain weight or they'll make you fat. I say, like, maybe it's just not the best choice. It's like a fun food that we eat just for fun, but it's not going to do anything for our body. So that's why we only eat it every once in a while. And I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but I want to stay away from words like fat, weight gain, calories, like...
I heard someone once say it's like, and we use this kind of language sometimes, but it's like a red light food, a green light food. Like green lights that's going to give your body like the go and the energy to do, and the red lights that slow you down, make your body stop. Like, it's not that you can't ever have one, but it's not going to give your body what it needs. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. It's like your fuel versus just frivolous, but fun. Exactly. So, well, as you continue walking in what the Lord has for you and sort of reflect back on, where you came from with your body image and I would say having victory over it. I would say at a certain level you've had victory. You've learned how to live well with it. What would you say your heart lesson is that God keeps, kind of speaking to you to keep you moving forward? feel like it truly comes down to contentment for me.
Yeah.
I feel like God is continually teaching me how to be content. And so, like, for that season of life, I feel like the big thread was learning to be content with who God made me to be. And so accepting my physical appearance, accepting my personality, all of that. And then it was accepting, finding content with kind of your relationships, being single for a while and wondering, gosh, well, am I ever going to get married, or is there anyone out there, like all this kind of thing. And then I feel like this new season is like finding content in the role that God has placed me in. The role of mother, the role of, my work related kind of things, and finding contentment. Can I really find satisfaction in Him in each one of these things? And I feel like He keeps, teaching me about contentment and showing me different ways to learn how to be content and to practice contentment in each of these different seasons of life. And I feel like that's kind of the common thread for me, because I'm not a very content person. I just want, I want to do, and sometimes it's great because that discontent can push you to do great things. But sometimes it's not a good thing, and you become, agitated with where you are, or who you are, or what you're doing. And so I feel like for me, that heart lesson has been, okay, why don't you see yourself and see others and see God and see your role through His eyes and through His perspective, because that is where you truly do find contentment. And you can learn, just like you would learn anything, learn a sport, or learn an instrument, learn a language, learn anything. You practice it, and that's where practicing contentment comes in, and practicing being satisfied with who God made me to be, where He has me, and the relationships He has in my life. And so I feel like for me, that's been kind of the heart lesson is, am I truly going to be content with all of those things? And He allows me so graciously to continue to struggle through different things, or walk down different paths that all lead to that same place of finding contentment in Him.
I feel like He does that a lot, like gives us like our thing that we're just constantly like, really, I have to go back to this, but like,
right, like, haven't I passed this quiz yet? Apparently not. I keep needing to retake it.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It has been a pleasure.
I loved it. I loved getting to chat with you again. You were on my show not too long ago.
Yes.
We just need to keep recording episodes so we keep having these great conversations.
I know. I'm starting a new little segment that I'm going to have repeat guests just to do sort of like a fun speed round.
Yeah.
And so I'll definitely have to give you a call.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be super fun. Well, thank you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. I found it to be so uplifting. I found it to just be so much more encouraging than I originally anticipated. Like I said, I anticipated a resource for young women, and what I didn't anticipate was a lot of just encouragement and good words for myself, especially in just being content with who God made you to be. Specifically maybe with, for me, like personality. I always think like, oh, I wish I were more outgoing or more this or that for the things that God's asked me to do. But, He made me this way, and He still asked me to do the things that He asked me to do. And I have to just trust that, that formula of my personality plus what He asked me to do is going to equal something great, for Him. So I also thought it was so interesting what she said about the power of words, how for every positive word you hear 6 negative words. And so, especially when speaking with my daughter, I just need to make sure that I'm always pouring positivity into her and trying as hard as I can to keep those sort of flippant negative comments at bay. They can just be so easy to just roll off the tongue, but really trying to think about, really with both of my kids, not letting those slip out and land on their sensitive ears. I don't know if you've listened to Sarah's podcast from all the times that I've, talked about it, but if you haven't, you should definitely search for it as soon as you're done listening here. And I know you're going to find her podcast to be encouraging, and it's I feel like another way to just connect with women and be uplifted in your own Christian life. And I really love it. I listen to it regularly. My kids hum along with her theme music. It's kind of funny. So yeah, definitely head over to survivingsarah.com. You can listen there. You can find where to listen on iTunes. You can find all of Sarah's social media things and follow along with her and what she's doing there. And I don't know if my encouragement from last week, about the genie, led you to leave a review, but I have another promise to make you if that one didn't cut it. So if you leave a review this week, which I highly recommend that you do for this podcast if you're a regular listener, I promise that if you're ever at my house and there are freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, that I will save the one with the most chocolate chips just for you. Or if your thing is like not a lot of chocolate chips, I'll save that one for you. So if you leave me a review this week, and then somewhere down the road, if you're ever at my house and there are freshly baked cookies involved, I'm going to give you the best one. That's a pretty good deal. Come on, guys. Well, that's all from me. I hope you found today encouraging. Head over to Instagram or Facebook and let me know what you liked about this episode. I'd love to hear from you, or shoot me an email. And as always, friends, I hope that you were able to come away today with a heart lesson of your own to help you draw closer to the Lord. Bye, guys.